Okay. I see lots of people still joining, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to our great conversation today about happiness in the workplace. We'll have a presentation from Lord Mark Price, followed by a conversation between Elisabeth Vezzani and Mark. So Lord Mark Price is a global business leader. He is founder of WorkL, and I'll let him tell us about WorkL. And he is a member of the House of Lords and author of this fantastic book, Happy Economics: Why the Happiest Workplaces Are the Most Successful. Elisabeth Vezzani is CEO and co-founder of Sugarwish. And I would say Elisabeth's a gifting expert, but really she's a happiness expert. So we are so excited for this. And with that, I will ask Mark to jump right into his presentation. Everybody,
I do have one thing. If you are not in gallery view, the slides you can see more in gallery view. If you would switch to that, I think it'll be a better. All right.
Thank you, Elisabeth. And before we get started, I will say we love seeing your comments in the chat. Jump in, give us an emoji. Yes, I agree. No, I don't think so. We love reading your comments. We want you to be engaged and participate today. So with that, talk to us. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, well, it's lovely to be with you all. I'm talking from Dorset in the UK, in England, and it was a bit of a rarity here today. We had blue sky and no rain. So it's been a very nice day in the UK, and the day is just going to get better for me because I've got the chance now to talk to you about happiness. So if you can put up my first slide, Leanne. My journey with happiness started a long time ago. As you can probably tell, I'm quite old now. But when I left university, I read archaeology and ancient history. I went to work for the John Lewis Partnership. Now, some of you might know the John Lewis Partnership, but it's made up of two businesses, John Lewis Department Stores and Waitrose Supermarkets in the UK. And on my very, very first day working for John Lewis in 1982, I was told by my then managing director that the supreme purpose of the John Lewis Partnership was the happiness of the people that work there. I mean, how amazing is that? I thought I'd gone to work for a retailer, and actually I was told that my primary responsibility during my time in the business was the happiness of the people that work there. And I know of only two other places in the world where happiness is set out as an ambition. The American Constitution, of course, which you know, which talks about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the King of Bhutan, who wishes happiness on his people. But I'd never come across it in a commercial setting. But the founder of the John Lewis Partnership, more than 100 years ago, had this really, really straightforward idea. He thought, if my people are happy, they're going to stay longer and my staff turnover will be lower. If my people are happy, they'll take less time off sick, and so my costs will be lower. And he thought, if my people stay with me longer and have less sick absence, any training that we do will stick. And as a consequence of that, my people will be more experienced, our productivity will be higher, and our customers in John Lewis and Waitrose will get much better service. And because of that, we will be a more successful business over the medium long term. So I was inculcated into that culture. I spent 34 years with the John Lewis Partnership. I ran the Waitrose supermarket business for the last 10 years. And for the last 3 in addition, I was deputy chairman of the John Lewis Partnership. And the business was wonderful for me. I loved every moment I was there. And one of the things that it allowed me to do was to go to the London Business School and INSEAD and Columbia and Wharton, and just to think about workplace happiness. What does it really mean? And how do you implement it in the workplace to achieve really good results? And I was pleased that during my last 10 years in Waitrose, we were able to acquire a number of shops from competitors in the UK. And when we acquired those shops, when we were calculating how successful they might be, we worried about taking on people who hadn't been brought up in the Waitrose and John Lewis culture and that as a consequence, we might lose some of our productivity and our service ethics. But the truth was we needn't have worried, because very, very quickly, the way that we treated people, the way we thought about workplace happiness infected them. And so shops that we were taking on before they became a Waitrose would typically have around 70% staff turnover. So 70% of their workforce would leave every year. When Waitrose took it over, the staff turnover fell to between 15 to 20%. Sick absence was 20%. So at any one time, managers were playing for about a fifth of their workforce not to be in work for one reason or another. And so as a consequence, they had to over-recruit. So when we took over those shops in Waitrose, we saw sick absence fall to about 3% to 4%. Because of that, productivity improved, customer service improved, and sales improved. And we were able to quantify the impact of moving to a model where we looked after the happiness of our people as a way of driving customer service and productivity and profitability. So much so that on average, one of the shops that we took over would be £200,000 more profitable just on the basis of lower staff turnover costs, lower training costs, lower sick absence costs, higher productivity than before. And then we got the dividend from what we were selling and how we sold it. So what I became a huge convert of and an exponent of is this focus on looking after your people, and your people will look after your business. Now, after I finished at Waitrose, I became the UK Minister of State for Trade. It was just before Brexit, so I had the great pleasure of working with the Obama administration and Mike Froman, who was fantastic, and the Commerce Secretary. And then Brexit came along in the UK, and I went well on that. And I was focused on making sure we had trade deals, and I did that job for 2 years. But after I'd done that, my focus went back to what can I do to help organizations and to help individuals have a happier working life, because I know it's better for the individual, it's better for the company or organization, it's better for society, and it's better for the economy because businesses do better. And so on my next slide, you'll see that what I did was found a business called WorkL, and we launched it now in 2018. So we've been going now for about 7-8 years. And we do two sets of things. We work with organizations. We currently work with 1,000 organizations globally, and we help them measure, track, and improve the happiness of their employees. We run all over the world with newspapers the Best Places to Work Awards. So we do that in the UK with the Sunday Times, in the Philippines with Business World, in India with the Hindu, in South Africa, in Kenya, in Egypt. So all over the world now, we're starting to work with newspaper organizations to help them discover the best places to work so that we continue to promote happiness. And then we have our own awards, the happiest workplaces, the world's happiest workplaces, and I'll show you a tiny bit on that in a few minutes. And then what we do when people fill in our survey, which is free, so any individual can come to our site, WorkL, they can take our Happy at Work test, it's free. We start by asking them where they work. As a consequence of that, we then give them advice about how they can be happier in their jobs. And we've got a list then of the world's happiest places. I'll show it you in a minute, but there's over 100,000 organizations at the moment. 15,000 American organizations are on the list. And every week, about 10,000 people come and take our Happy at Work test. And what we do then is those companies that are the happiest, we link jobs in those companies. So we help people find jobs where we think they'll be happy because people like them are happy based on all of that data. That's what we do if we find that we can't help people be happier in the jobs they're in. So that's what I set up when I left the government, a business that's now global, that helps people measure their happiness and helps them improve it. So on the next slide, I just want to mention really, really briefly the book that I recently published called Happy Economics. So if you go back one slide, Leanne, that's it, that's the one. So Happy Economics was published in the UK in September last year. It was published in America in October last year. And what I do there is I set out all of the data that we have from those more than 1,000 companies all over the world and the millions of people that have taken our Happy at Work test. And what the book shows you is that those organizations with the happiest workforces have lower levels of flight risk, i.e., that's the number of people who are likely to leave the organization in the next 9 months. And we know that because we work with companies on new starter and exit surveys, and we know how people answer questions if they're going on to leave. So with a huge degree of accuracy, we can tell which members of a workforce are likely to leave. Because of that, we can judge flight risk, the percentage that they're going to leave. Happiest companies, much lower flight risk. Happier companies, people feel better about their reward and their recognition. They have higher levels of satisfaction. Profits are 20% higher. Earnings per share, 136% higher. So what the book sets out is real life examples of the link between the happiness of an employee workforce and their commercial results. Now, sometimes I've asked, yeah, that's all well and good, but you can drive performance through fear. And the truth is you can really drive people hard and get good results, but it doesn't last because people leave. You can reward them wildly and treat them badly, but ultimately they will leave. And that's because there are a number of factors that drive happiness in the workplace. And on the next slide, what I have got are the 6 things that really drive workplace happiness. Now, if you've got a friend at work, you'll be happier in your workplace. If you've got a great view from your office, you'll probably be happier in your workplace. If your business is kind enough to give you pizza on a Thursday night or a free beer, you'll probably be happier. But they are not the things, the real things that drive workplace happiness. So over my 34 years with John Lewis and going to business schools and working with behavioral scientists and others, these are the things that really influence whether people are happy or not at work. The first is reward and recognition. So am I paid fairly? Now, the key thing about pay is that it's a hygiene factor. But what I mean by that is if you are paid 10% less than you think you are worth, and you judge that relatively to other people who are doing the same kind of job as you, if you're 10% less, it niggles away at you all the time and you think they're having me on the cheap. But conversely, if you are paid 10% more than you think you're worth, you do not skip into work every day and think, this is wonderful, I'm going to work super extra hard because I get 10% more than I think. So pay is a hygiene factor. People want to be paid fairly. A much bigger driver of happiness at work is recognition. And in America, you're fantastic at it. In the UK, we are not good at it at all. In the UK, on average, we tell people they're doing a good job about once every 2.5 months. We tell them they could do better, typically about 2 or 3 times a week. In America, normally 2 to 3 times a week, you're saying that's a great job, well done, and you have huge positivity, and that impacts on happiness. And not surprisingly, America scores higher than the UK in the happiness world's happiest workplace chart because recognition is hugely important. And of course, Sugarwish, shout out for Sugarwish. In this area, they are fantastic because what they're doing is providing a mechanism for you to recognize people in the workforce who have done a great job. And there are lots of ways you could do it, but Sugarwish, fantastic, great credit to you for doing that. The second thing is information sharing. Unless you know what's going on in your organization, unless you're informed, unless you're well trained to do your job properly, you can't be happy. The third thing is about empowerment. It's allowing people to do their jobs. It's treating them with respect. Unless you give people freedom to do their job and show them that they can do a good job, you can't reward them. You can't properly say you did that fantastically if you're looking over their shoulder and telling them what to do all the time. But also you can't develop them. So letting people do something, allowing them or giving them the space to do things wrong so you can coach and improve is hugely powerful in terms of people's happiness at work. The fourth is instilling pride. People want to know that what they are doing is making a difference. Now, that could be making a difference to their company because the job they do is vital, and without it, the company would be less good. It could be that the work that you're doing in your local communities is really important to the vitality of that community. It could be global, it could be national, but people need to feel that what they're doing is important for them to feel happy at work. I'm going to talk about the sixth one before the fifth one, well-being. People want to know that the organization genuinely cares for them and their well-being. And if they feel that, if they feel their manager and their organization cares, then they are happy at work. They feel safe. And the last one is job satisfaction. And I'd just really quickly draw out two things. The first is that people are actually doing a job that they enjoy. It's amazing how many people do a job and they don't really enjoy it. They just kind of go through the motions. You know, work is work, it pays the bills. But if you're going to be happy at work, it's important that you do find something that you enjoy doing. And the last, and this is the most critical, if there's only one thing in this list that you take away, it's the relationship you have with your line manager. So if you go to WorkL and you take our free survey, our free Happy at Work test, there are 21 questions at the end of it. We tell you your score, where you're strong, where you're weak. But the question that is most correlated to how well you score is the answer to this question: how well do you get on with your manager? If you score that 10 out of 10, then your overall survey score will be in the 80s. If you score it 0 or 1, your overall score will be in the 20s. It's the most highly correlated thing. So if you're going to do anything to improve the happiness of your workforce, it's that relationship between the manager and the employee, and them feeling this manager cares for me, he cares for my well-being, he cares for my development, he looks after my pay, he recognizes me, she recognizes me when I do well, she shares information with me, she trains me, she encourages me, she makes me feel good. If you've got a manager that can do the things I've listed here, it makes a huge difference to your workplace happiness. So over the course of the time, those were the things that I discovered with others are the real drivers of happiness in the workplace. And these are not expensive things. These are all about understanding and implementing and analyzing and improving. So on the next slide, I just want to mention the world's happiest workplace list. So if you go to WorkL and if you go to the world's happiest workplace list, you will see a ranking there of more than 100,000 organizations, and about 2,000 to 3,000 more organizations are added to the list every week. We have entries from 194 countries around the world. All 26 sectors are covered. In our last year, 1.5 million people went and took the test. By saying where you work, you enter your company both into the list, but also in our awards, which we announce every January. And if you click on the company on the list on the left, it opens up and it shows you all the data there. It shows you their overall engagement scores. It shows you their scores against the industry. It shows you a breakdown of the demographics, so men, women, disabled, non-disabled, LGBTQ, white, ethnic minorities. It gives you a complete breakdown, and it shows you confidence in management, inclusion, flight risk, well-being risk, and it's there so that any individual in the world can go and see how people that work in that company feel about it. But it's all aimed at being positive. This is about pulling out, praising and lauding companies where people are happy, so that what we're doing is driving other people to go there. So we're raising the bar through demonstrating to everybody the organizations in the world that are happiest and why they're happy. And we link that to jobs. So if you're a white female under the age of 35 and you want to work in HR, we'll show you which companies in the world, people that look like you, have said that they're happiest. So our simple mission is, how do we help people be happier in their work, and how do we help them find places where they'll be happier if for any reason they're not happy? And then just one final slide, and that's around some current results. So we've got so much data. If any of you want some free data, if you drop us a note, we're happy to provide free data with you. And we've got data on every demographic and every industry. But these I thought were quite interesting, given those of us on the call today. So the overall global workplace happiness is 73%. That's an average. I hate averages, but that's an average. Management is 78, non-management is 70, and non-management is dropping. So there is a big gap between the managers and those who are managed. and the gap is getting wider, I'm sad to say. So there's something that we need to think about how people are being managed and how they feel about their workplace happiness. The second thing looking at managers is well-being. At the moment, 23% or about a quarter of people in the workplace have a well-being risk. They're anxious or they're depressed or they're worried about their work. There's a big gap again. Managers are 20%, non-managers are 32%, 1 in 3 of people being managed. And then if you look at the generation coming into our workplace now, Gen Z, the flight risk for that group is 24%. 1 in 4 will leave their jobs in the next 9 months. Management, 16%. Non-management, 28%. Again, a big gap. So again, if there was one thing I would add to the thing about the importance of the manager and the manager relationship, it's this growing gap between the managed and the managers in terms of their overall happiness. And then there's just one final thought I want to leave you with before Elisabeth and I chat, and that's something called extra discretionary effort. In the book Happy Economics, what I talk about a lot is extra discretionary effort. And that's what happens when people are happy. When people are happy, they'll go the extra mile, they'll do more, they'll willingly do an extra 5 or 10 minutes, they'll willingly take on an extra project. And because of that, we find that those companies that are happiest have higher levels of extra discretionary effort, lower levels of staff turnover, lower levels of sick absence, higher levels of productivity. And guess what? The research that we've done over 7-8 years now shows that people who are happy in their jobs are paid more and are more likely to be promoted. And if you have a choice of 2 people on your team, one who is happy and positive and gives you extra discretionary effort, and one who is miserable and clearly unhappy in their job, it's pretty clear who you're going to want to put budget behind and who you're going to want to put promotion behind. So in that brief time, I hope what I've been able to do is to demonstrate to you that if you are happy in your work, and if you are in a workplace that promotes happiness, then it's better for the individual, it's better for the organization, it's better for society, and it's better for the country, because company profits are higher, and therefore tax take is higher, therefore GDP is higher. So all round, happy economics drives a better and happier world. That's about it, I think. Hopefully I've done that in super quick time, Melissa.
You have. That is fantastic.
Well, I could listen to you all day. Sorry, Melissa.
Me too. Just like when I was reading the book, I was taking notes and writing in the margin and flagging pages. Hearing you talk about it, I was doing the same. There's so much fuel for conversation, for leaders of organizations to reflect. There's so much room for growth and change and improvement in our workplaces, and this is such a great roadmap. So we got to hear a little bit from you about your kind of journey into the work you're doing and your focus on happiness. As I mentioned before, Elisabeth, you're also a happiness expert, and you came to it from a different direction. So before I get into some questions for Mark, Elisabeth, do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey to being an expert in delivering happiness?
Sure. I'm not sure I can take on expert, but so Leslie Lyon and I created Sugarwish 12, 13 years ago. And the intent wasn't to create a happiness company. That I wish I could say we had that vision. But we did want to delight people and realize that the whole point of sending a gift was to make someone happy. It wasn't really about sending a sweater or just a thing. It was to create that feeling of happiness or joy. So although we started in a gifting company, we always say we ended up in the happiness business, because everything we do as a company, we try to keep in mind that intent to delight people, to deliver happiness, to have everything from the experience of picking, the person sending, making that joyful, to the one who receives it. We look at everything through the lens of, is this creating delight and happiness. And we believe that from our values internally. As you can see, the slide is up of what our internal values are that as a company. And it's not only to deliver happiness and can-do attitude, which is in line with, just being happy and in a good place, but agile, innovative. But what we really are proud of is that not only are we trying to delight our customers, but we are stressing that kindness matters in the workplace and that making Sugarwish a special place to be so that everyone feels this is a special place, that we know that it's easier to deliver happiness if everybody here feels like they're at a special place to be. So we try to do it with every single meeting, with recognition, with awards. We try to live what Mark is preaching, but I love hearing it directly from Mark because it's fun to learn new ways to do it and what's important and to see it through, an expert's eyes. But also, although I don't take that, I truly am an expert, we do work hard to make sure our customers have the tools to be able to provide that recognition, to be able to celebrate Employee Appreciation Day, to be able to, easily give someone a little, hey, I saw you did a great job today, or hey, cheer up. Everything we do is all around that. And we get to see the goodness every day. Everything we get to see is people being kind to each other, cheering people up, telling their employees they're amazing, thanking each other. So we just get to see so much goodness and light. So that's how.
Thank you.
That's the part of the happiness expert I'll take. It's just we get to see and live it every day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Mark, as you mentioned, you've worked with thousands of organizations across the globe, and in your presentation, you mentioned everything from the King of Bhutan's focus on happiness to doing research at mergers and acquisitions to individual relationships with managers and how important that is. Can you share some anecdotes or stories about kind of the impact of happiness come to life in certain organizations? Is there any organization that really stands out to you that you would want to highlight?
I mean, that's a hard question because we work with so many. But what I would do, if you'll allow me, is just to go back to something that Elisabeth said, which I think is really important. So I think I mentioned right at the start that when I went to university, I read archaeology and ancient history, or I don't know if I did, but I did. And so it was a bit odd that I went into retail. But in studying ancient history, I read the Greek philosophers, and it was Socrates who sort of 2,500, 3,000 years ago was the first person to ever say and write down that happiness is a legitimate pursuit. As humans, we should be pursuing happiness. And then Aristotle, who was a student of Socrates, built on that. And what Aristotle said is, look, you get happiness in different ways. He talked about ego being important, that you're happy if you win something, you're happy. If you're promoted, you're happy. If you buy a car, you're happy. But he said all of these things are fleeting, because once you've got the promotion, or once you've won the award, or once you've bought your new car, or your new house, or your new clothes, then that happiness starts to dissipate. And what he said is that lasting happiness comes from altruism, through helping other people, through being kind. And Elisabeth, I really picked up on that when you were talking about Sugarwish. And it is that amazing feeling when you give a gift, how that makes you feel. And if I was to ask all of you to reflect now on, through your life, think about the things that are enduring, that have given you happiness. And I bet 9 times out of 10, it was helping that person who was in trouble, or, that person that fell in the street and you helped them up and you got a cab for them. And it's those things that really impact on us as humans. And so if we think that it's legitimate to want to be happy, it's legitimate to want to help other people to be happy. And you know what? It's going to make us feel really, really good. That's a really powerful thought to have. So, coming back to your question, Melissa, yes, there are lots of things. If I pick up the recognition thing, when I was running Waitrose supermarkets, um, I was really concerned because we didn't have Sugarwish in the UK back then. Um, uh, I wanted to find something that allowed managers to really quickly and easily do something to express their gratitude to one of the people working on the shop floor in a Waitrose supermarket. So we issued them with postcards so that they could just take one out of their drawer, write it really quickly. We said to them, look, give people a bunch of flowers, give them a bottle of wine, just take it off the shelf, just give it to them and say thank you. Now, of course, our finance department were all, you can't do that. There are tax implications. So it took quite a lot of work for me to persuade them that we could do it. It really was not a big deal. But we would say to people, if somebody likes Chelsea football and they've done a brilliant job, get them a ticket for the game. Just do it. So through that, what we did is we tried to encourage this culture through thinking about just do things to recognize others. So that's one example, but there are in the book there are examples for everyone. So there are companies and stories about people that have done things to improve information sharing by having meetings and all sorts of things. So I won't go on any longer, Melissa, but if you think about those things and think about how do we instill pride? There's that story I love, and I don't know if it's true or not. You see it everywhere, and nobody knows if it's a true story about when Kennedy visited the Cape Canaveral, and they had a line of people for him to meet, and he got along the line, and he came to the janitor, and he said to the janitor, "What do you do here?" And the janitor said, "I'm putting a man on the moon." I mean, what I love about that story is they found a way to make that person feel as though they were doing something vitally important for the future of mankind. Really great organizations and really great managers can do that. You know, you are doing a vital job for us. If you do not have those shelves stacked every day, the promotions stacked every day for our customers, we lose money. 20% of our sales come from those promotional ends. Therefore, if you're not stacking the shelves effectively, we're losing money. Therefore, this company's success is in your hands. It's really important. There are ways that you can do that, and great managers just find ways of instilling pride in their people, either in the importance of their job or the importance of what they do for society, or even greater. So there are lots of examples in the book, Melissa. I hope those couple.
Yes. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I love that line of sight to the biggest purpose for everyone. That's so important. Um, can you tell us, Mark, a little bit about kind of the elements of supporting well-being for employees? You mentioned that as a critical piece of your, I mean, they're all critical, your 6-step model. Can you tell us about how organizations who want to shift their focus to well-being might be able to do that?
I can, and to do it, I'll tell you a true story about a global advertising agency that we were asked to go and work with. They had offices around the world, but we went to London. And the reason that the HR director asked us to see me and the team was that they'd had 2 suicides, people in their mid-30s who were creatives working on advertising. And they'd also had huge staff turnover, more than they'd had historically. And so they said, would you come and work with us to find out what's going on? And the senior management were a bit skeptical, but things were so bad that they had agreed. So we went in, and this is a company that had invested in mental health first aiders. They had so many perks, I couldn't start to name them. But what we discovered is that the key problem was that the CEO was under huge pressure from the owners to deliver results. And this is 3 years back during COVID, and the economy was really difficult. And so what the CEO had done is go out, find lots and lots and lots of opportunities. And he was driving the team incredibly hard to develop creative and pitches. And people were working till 2, 3 in the morning, getting up early, going to pitches day after day after day. And it was the workload that was literally killing them. It was, and the business was, the CEO was well intentioned, the business was well intentioned, But what they'd forgot to understand is that having a mental aid first aider, having all of these perks, were just simply not enough when people were having to work harder and longer than they were humanly capable of doing, when they felt under massive pressure, they didn't feel supported when things went wrong. And so it was those six things that there was the real issue, Melissa. You know, not being informed about we're in a crisis, we really need everybody to step up, not understanding the important role they had in getting the company through a difficult time. So the difficult situation at the end of that assignment was sitting down with the CEO to say, you've got to think of a different way of doing this, because it's you and your behaviors and you driving people in the way that you're driving them that's creating this frankly toxic culture. And you can change it, but it's got to be you. You've got to realize that you're affecting the well-being of your people. So a true story, and I'm delighted to say that the CEO did say, I'll take it on board and I'll change, which was very, very big of them.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. I know that so many of my peers in human resources around the country and so many of our clients at Sugarwish are focused on improving well-being and kind of paying attention and reflecting on how leadership can drive well-being. So I think that story is really instructive for all of us. Thank you. Elisabeth, this one's for you. Mark talked about reward and recognition as kind of number one, the first of those 6 steps and 6 pillars. Sugarwish is a great tool for reward and recognition. I've often heard you talk about messaging and the sentiment behind the gift. Can you share a little bit more about recognizing people with that sentiment?
Well, definitely. When you're sending or recognizing someone, if you're able to really point out why. So we talk about when you send a Sugarwish, or if you're not sending a Sugarwish and you're just writing a note, a handwritten note or a postcard, like Mark was talking about, but really adding that little extra time to say something personal, and just recognizing exact things people do, things that made a difference for other people. You know, we also at Sugarwish, a lot of times we talk about joking, like people are talking about you, and letting other people know other people are saying positive things about them. That's one of my favorite things within the organization is we end all of our meetings with, please call out someone that publicly, just call out someone that was living the Sugarwish values, those values I talked about earlier. And so whether the meeting we were working on issues or was good news or bad news, we always end on that positive note and other people calling out wonderful things people did that week. And it's very personal. So we make sure, like with Sugarwish, we have so many things within our platform that allows people to be personal, to create a note, to pick a fun sentiment to go with their gift. So it's not just showing up in a box, a cardboard box, and here's your thing. It's about here's this personal experience. It's important to me that it feels wonderful when you get it. It's important to me that you smile, you see how much you actually made a difference, and it's meaningful. So I always just talk about the little things, the little details, and how much they matter. Just if you just hand someone something not wrapped, not in a beautiful box, if you just throw something at someone, it almost doesn't matter what it is. And on the reverse side of that, if you write a personal note, if you put it in a beautiful box, if you make it special, it shows them that you care, that it feels special, and that their feelings matter to you. So
Thank you.
yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yes.
Yeah. why we do what we do. Thank you.
And,
So
Lisa, do you mind if I just build on that, because Elizabeth said something that's fired something in my head that I think is hugely important, and it's about knowing your people on a personal level. And the Roman army were amazing. I mean, they controlled most of Europe, and the Roman army had a philosophy whereby you would manage 8 to 10 soldiers, and you'd have cohorts and legions. And they felt that that sort of number was the right number if you really wanted to understand your people. And I always felt really strongly when I was running Waitrose supermarkets that if spans of control got too big, and particularly if you're working in a supermarket 7 days, long hours, then your managers didn't know their people, and therefore they could never build that kind of relationship where they knew that the daughter might be going to high school, or somebody was poorly, or somebody needed extra support. And so I was always conscious about not having a team that was too big. And on my board at Waitrose, there were 10 of us, and I every week had a list of the 9 people on my board, and then 5 or 6 other people that were critical to the success of our business. They were at a very senior level. They weren't on the board, but they were senior. And the reason I had their names on a piece of paper every week is that I would make sure that I talked to every one of them, either in a face-to-face or on the phone every week. Now, I'm sure to everybody listening, that sounds really, really easy. I can't tell you how hard it is. I mean, I had to work really hard to make sure I either had a face-to-face or I picked up the phone and we had 15, 20 minutes. And then what I would do randomly on a Saturday night, before I had dinner with a glass of whiskey normally, is I'd spend an hour on the phone randomly phoning our supermarkets, asking to speak to the duty manager, asking them about them and their shop. And for me, trying to build that culture where you care for your immediate team, you're interested in them, is so, so critical. It comes back to this importance of manager. And so what you were saying, Elisabeth, about really understanding your people and showing you understand them by the gift you're giving and the presentation, etc., that's so important. So spans of control. I don't know about America, but certainly in the UK over the last decade and a half, we've been ripping out middle management, and it's not been good. We've been putting real stress on junior managers and expecting them to step up at a very young age, and they're not really coaching and developing them to do the job well. So they've been thrown in. So that's been an issue. But then all that middle cohort, who in the old days used to have the time to personally get to know people and coach, they've gone. And so you have to think about, what are the new ways of doing that? What are the new ways of demonstrating that you're in touch with your people, you understand them, you've seen something good that's happened? Again, when I was at Waitrose, what I used to have was, we had good suggestion schemes, but I used to get people to feed up. So I used to do handwritten letters, or I had letters typed off, and I'd sign them and send them out to people in the business, just so that they knew that even at the most senior levels, we cared for individuals. So such an important point, Elisabeth, that you raised.
yeah,
and I think nowadays with hybrid workplaces and Zoom meetings, it adds that little extra difficulty to just the water cooler talk. So providing space for just talk and personal, how's your how's your dog that just ran through in the background, and just having that space for personal time and just silly talk, I think is really important. We all want really, really strict, get the meeting in, get the meeting out, go by these guidelines, but also it's just important to get to know people. And how's your day, what's going on, what's happening, and it doesn't feel that it's as productive, but it's super important that we all feel connected when we are all in our offices, not all together. So just providing for that space, like you said, like personal time and getting to know each other.
Elisabeth, I love that. I think you're exactly right. These dispersed workforces make it so hard to, or not so hard, make it harder, and it really requires that intention, like Mark shared about kind of intentionally touching every store, every person, every week, and really creating a system for himself. That intentionality is critical. Before we get to the end, Mark, if you could decide that each person here took 3 things away from this discussion and 3 kind of actionable ways to make our workplaces happier or increase our focus on workplace happiness, what would those 3 things be?
So the first one would be the most critical relationship for the happiness of employees is the relationship they have with their manager. So if you to do one thing, just think about how's that relationship, because the gap is getting wider. So that's very important. The second thing is that I said it earlier, I hate averages. If you've got your head in the fridge and your feet in the oven, you're not in an average temperature. You're just in bad shape. And so when people look at analysis, they look at averages, and you can't do that because, there are different things for men and women and young and old, and Gen Z are different to millennials, etc. So the thing that you need to think about is, how do I split down the cohorts in my business, and how do I understand what's right for them? And if you were to say, I need to make people happier, we'll put a pool table in the dining room. That might work for Gen Zs who might like that, but it won't be universally popular. So I came across that because when I was at Waitrose, we ran an annual survey and we worked on averages, and I'd go to see people on the shop floor and I'd say, what did you think of the results? And they'd say they were fine, but they don't bear any resemblance to me and what I think and how I need to improve. So one of the things that we do at WorkL is we give every individual feedback so that every individual can work on their own workplace happiness, not just managers. So my number one would be that relationship between managers and non-management. My number 2 was, you have to think about every individual, and there has to be a system where you're thinking about, how do I make each individual happy? I think my third, you might think, is a bit of an odd one, but what I've discovered over 34 years is information sharing is really, really important. Listening to people's points of views and sharing what you're doing. And you quite often get management teams who said, yeah, but we've done the culture document, we've done the strategy, why don't people get it? And the truth is that these sort of things have to be said over and over and over again. People will see the point, but they'll forget it. Newcomers will arrive and the idea will be new to them. So you've got to repeat endlessly, but it's got to be done in a way that's really fresh and interesting to people. So just think about information, how you're giving information, how you're listening to views, how you're keeping people on board. So they would be my 3, Melissa. 1, the relationship manager and individual. The second is, every individual in your workforce is different. Think about how you're giving each of the individuals the opportunity to grow. And then the last one, as I just said.
I love it. Thank you.
I just have a few things. We have somebody, Melanie, who's wondering if you're hiring, that you'd be a wonderful person to work for. So I love to see that.
Thank you, Melanie.
I also, you mentioned not one thing works for everybody, and that's also really aligned with Sugarwish, where when you send a Sugarwish, they're able to pick, and so you're not just sending, here's something I think everybody will like. And then they're like, I don't like oatmeal raisin cookies, or I need gluten-free, or so part of what we've created is that you are able to make everybody happy because they're picking what they want and they feel it's special because they aren't just given something that you like, Mark. it's something they like, so you're guaranteed every time to deliver on that happiness. So it was just too easy of a segue that I had to jump in there, but and we'll have to connect you with Melanie.
Absolutely.
All right, sorry. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're about to wrap up, but before we do that, I want to share, we have 5 attendees today who will be the lucky recipient of a copy of Happy Economics and an appreciation Sugarwish. So I'm going to read your names, but know that we will get in touch with you to send you your book and your appreciation Sugarwish. We have Katie Gelasio, Regina Antonio, Jason Mork, Jolene Frazier, and Brandice Acri. So, so exciting. we'll have some contact information for you. And the last, Mark, your 3 actionable steps are so great and really give us all something to focus on. That oven fridge analogy is one that I will be using. Fantastic. Quick parting words from you, Elisabeth, and then you, Mark. Parting words for us.
Well, my parting words are for you, Mark. I could listen to you all day. I think you're fantastic. The world needs more Marks and more books like this. There's so much wisdom, so much of what the world and workplaces need, and we can all learn and get better every day on creating environments that we all spend so much time at work. It's such a huge part of our life and identity that with that pursuit of happiness, it's really important to keep everything in your wisdom in mind. So this has been a joy. I've learned so much today, and I'm just honored that you joined our Sugarwish webinar. So I'm so happy to be able to bring your words to our companies that use us, and it was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well,
Mark,
thank you very much for having me, Melissa and Leanne. Thank you, and Elisabeth. It's been an absolute pleasure and joy. I've always loved my time in America. When I was in Waitrose, I came to visit H.E. Butt in Texas, and all of your supermarkets all over the country. And I love the positivity of the country, and I love the culture. And I just wish you all a good morning, America. And I wish you all every happiness. And if you want to take the free Happy at Work test, go and do that. I've got another book coming out in September that my publisher has persuaded me to write called Work Happier, and that's for individuals, for them. And there's a charter that goes along that. So I hope people start seeing that in America and sign up to the charter, and everybody works on promoting happiness. But I'm so pleased to have joined you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for attending. We love to see our Sugarwish customers, our potential Sugarwish customers, anybody who's interested in improving the quality of work. So we're so happy. And Mark and Elisabeth, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and experience and insight with all of us today. We appreciate all of you.
All right. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.